one. I just recently did a workshop on sort of energy and what is energy. Like when we say, you know, oh, it's the energy of the situation, or it's the elemental energy of XYZ. Like, what do we really mean? Like, what is energy, right? Which is vibrations and things of that nature. And then, you know, worked with pendulums. But I was out of town when I did it, and so I had promised that when I got back, I would go through my pendulum collection. And so that's what I'm doing here. And I will put a link to the workshop, which is available for playback below, which also comes with a printout of being able to do some pendulum spreads also, which I'll use to highlight some of these. So this is my entire pendulum collection, except for one that I believe my house fae must have stolen. It's a little copper one that is one of my favorites, and I cannot find it anywhere. Now, I do use it sometimes over in my working space with herbs and making seasonal salts and things like that. I do have a couple places that I use it at because it's my most used one, but it should be in one of 3 places and it's nowhere. So I'm assuming it will show up eventually, but I do have a copper one to show. It's a smaller copper one than this one, and that is most definitely my most used. I do love copper. In fact, I think I said in the workshop that if you just had 2 pendulums, I would suggest getting a copper pendulum and some sort of a quartz pendulum for crystal. Like those would be if you only had 2, those would be the 2 that I would recommend. So other than that missing little one, which is kind of, I love it, and it's but it's smaller than this one. So other than that, these are all of the pendulums that I own. These are new ones for the sake of showing them. So I'm not going to be able to talk as much about them in terms of usage. So let's talk about these. This is the one that people laugh at the most in the past when I've shown my pendulums, because it does look a little bit like it has a vibrate mode to it, if you get my drift. But it is actually a great one. It's got a lot of heft to it, and it has a nice swing to it as well. Show me yes. Of course, it is really hard to film, especially from this, because my hand's in the way of it. But this has a nice swing to it. If I were to add in a third, if you had 3 crystals or 3 pendulums, I would say a copper, a quartz, and an obsidian of some sort. I use this one more than I do this giant one, but like if you had 2, I would say these, and if you had 3, I would say those. Those 3. But you know, I obviously have more than that. But so this was sent to me. I didn't purchase this. I have no clue where it was gotten from, but it is a really solid reader. It's very talkative. It gets a nice swing on it. I think the weight, and then of course how much of the crystal that we have to vibrate and to react to things. So it's a very solid reader. I do use this one and I do love it for that purposes. I don't know how I'm doing this. I guess I need to, should I do my favorites? I do love this one as well. I love all of them for different reasons. Okay, copper, absolute favorite. This is a new copper one. Copper, I think, is a really easy one to start with for people. Copper does conduct really well, and it does talk really well, so you get nice good swing. This has got a nice weight to it. I'll put the Amazon link to this and my other one, copper one. Again, not an affiliate link, but just so that you can see it. This, I think, is a really good beginning copper one, but I just love the use of copper. I use my little copper one the most out of all of my pendulums over the years. So I'm a big fan, and I really like this one. So Copper would be my favorite. Again, my quartz ones would be probably my next favorite. Would be my quartz ones. This is one that has sort of the chakra beads on it, but it's just a clear kind. I know it's nail polish, but we're just going to keep going. Sorry for that. Very clear quartz. I mean, it's got a couple little pale inclusions in there. Quartz, again, is a great beginners. They're very chatty energetically. It's a nice, clean energy. They're very powerful. It's great for clearing energy. It's great for all kinds of stuff. Quartz is, if I could have only one crystal, it would have to be quartz. I would not want to be in that predicament, but if I had to have only one crystal, it would be quartz. It is so powerful, at least for me. And so this is like a prismatic one. I love this one. This one, I have just a little charm, a tree charm that's on there, and it has more inclusions. I actually really love crystals with inclusions in them, especially quartz. And I really love this one. This is one of my big favorites. Again, quartz is super chatty. And when I say chatty, I guess that means it's got high vibration for me. Now, again, everybody's going to be different, but it's got a big swing to it without, it really, again, has a pretty solid swing to it when you're working with it. Quartz is just really good. And this one is a great size. Size does, for me, matter, and then sometimes it doesn't. This one is about, I would say, 1.5 inches, maybe a little bit more than 1.5 inches. And this is a nice size. Like I do like this size. This is probably the biggest that I prefer. This one is a little large, but again, it does speak really, really well. But this is probably, to me, a nice, if you want a bigger one, this is probably about as big as I prefer them. These are about perfect, right? These are more along the lines, well, this is more like 1.5 inches, so I can't measure anything apparently. This would be moving more towards an 1.75 inches, and that's okay, but I don't prefer it really to be larger than that, whereas this 1.5 inch size is a really good size, so you get a solid heft to it. They swing really nicely, but they're not, not obnoxiously large. Again, she's a big one, but she's very good at what she does. So my preference is probably this about 1.5 inch size. My other copper one is much smaller than this, probably closer to this, although it's a little more squat. These to me are a little on the small side, but we'll get to those in a minute. So, copper, quartz, those are my favorite. This is one that I love as well. This is quartz that has some sort of like inclusion or other type of crystal swirled in the bottom. This is a nice one too. It's a little more squat, a little lighter feeling. I prefer these two to that one. I really don't take that one out to use too much. Again, I wouldn't get rid of it. There's always a time where it's going to be, I want to use that one. But this isn't one that I use a lot. I definitely can say that. Now, we'll come back to this one in a second. Well, no, let's just finish because that's quartz too. So I don't know exactly what this is. I have this little crystal that is quartz, obviously, that has a faint green tint to it. This little crystal is powerhouse. Vibrationally, I call this my web. It to me is like the center point of the web that I connect to for readings and things of that nature. This to me feels like it's the center of the web, so I even call it that it's my little web crystal on the table. So it has a powerful, way outside of size, has a power hit. When I saw this recently at a crystal shop, this had the same feel to it, where it's not super large. It's about an inch, and so it's pushing to where I usually like them, again, more like the 1.5 inches. But this one I've been using, and I really do love it. It doesn't have a big swing to it, maybe because it doesn't have the point, but it is still really has a great feel to it. So again, this is newer. I don't have a lot of experience. I just put a little charm that I had with me on it, and I just put I went over to the craft store and got a bracelet, you know, to make bracelets in the jewelry section. That's a really good length to put on to a pendulum. And so I haven't worked with this a lot yet, but it has a almost magnetic feel in the sense that when it drops energetically, it has this, like, you can feel the energy between it and the table. So I don't know, I'm gonna keep working with this, but this is a type obviously of green quartz, and I do tend to lean towards quartz, and so this one I'm going to be keeping out to on my reading table to work with some more, because I've been really enjoying that that experience with that one. And then the other quartz that I have is this that I made. So I took this is a, oh my goodness, I believe this is a oh, they're called something diamond quartz. I'm completely blanking. It's not the fire and ice quartz. It's a I'll have to figure out what that is and put it below. And then I've wrapped it in copper. That's real copper wiring that I wrapped it to, and then I have copper chain on it. So this is just a piece of crystal that didn't have any kind of finding on it, and I wrapped and made the finding on it. It is definitely on the larger size, just in length, yes, but also just in bulkiness. So this is about, the crystal itself is certainly pushing close to, definitely in that 1 3/4 and pushing in close to the 2-inch mark, and it's definitely bulkier. I do really like this. Again, I generally prefer crystals that do taper to a point for pendulums. I do think they swing more decisively. But I do love this one, and I have used it, and I would say I primarily use this on when I do things moon-wise for whatever reason. I can't tell you why, but I do tend to pull this out more. It's not a huge heavy swinger, back and forth, have strong, but it's decisive and it has a really powerful feel to it. So mostly I've used this with moon things, and I wouldn't call it a workhorse one, but I do love it. And I love all of them for different reasons. So that's that one over there. So these two are like ones that I will pull out now and again, but I don't use them a lot. I really don't use this one hardly ever. My workhorse one is my little copper one. This one's got a great feel to it. This is definitely a workhorse one as well. And I actually use this one quite a bit. This I'm assuming is an Obsidian. I do really love Obsidian for pendulum work, especially if you're doing like energetic work where you're like kind of maybe clear energetic blockages and things like that. Obsidian literally feels like a magnet too. There's such a powerful pull between these two. Again, that's why I do feel like having a black crystalled pendulum, a quartz crystal pendulum, and a copper, like that's a great trifecta if you don't want to have a ton for different reasons, but you want to have a nice set. That to me would make a really great set right there. And again, I love this one. I don't use it as much as that one. I just love the inclusions in that one, so I'm going to put that over here. Don't use as much, but I wouldn't get rid of it. This is my Amethyst one. Amethyst is an amazing one. I do think if you added in another, if you wanted to add in another starting to get into using specific crystals for different things, especially if you're doing energy work, but even for reading, if you want it to kind of go places. Amethyst for me is really tied to the liminal space and the Fae, kind of the Fae realm. So for me, for past life things, liminal space questions, those types of things, I do think amethyst is really powerful for that. So having a decent amethyst one for that type of work is beautiful. Do you need multiple pendulums? No. All you need is one, and again, if you had one, I would say get a copper. Unless you really want a crystal, then I would say just get a clear quartz to start. Again, if you had two, I would get these. If you had three, I would get these. To start to add in other things, I think that then you're starting to think about particular crystals that you love, particular crystals that are useful. For example, this is a very, I believe, this is a new one, and I think I want to get a, I don't like this size. I'll be honest with you, these are not my favorite. It's got a nice swing, but it doesn't have a nice feel. I'm that way with my runes. I like a certain heft. I've noticed I'm just tactile in that way. So I do think I'm going to pick up a larger rose, like this size rose quartz, because I do think rose quartz would be an amazing one for, again, healing work. Grief work, because I actually find using a pendulum to sort of interview self regarding grief work and healing work is really powerful. It's some of the most powerful experiences I've had using pendulums, and I do think a rose quartz would be amazing for that. But I do find this to be a little just too light for me, both even maybe in color, although I like pale rose quartz. But the size of these to me are a little bit just not quite enough heft for me. That's just personal preference, right? But a rose quartz would be really good. I love this one. Now this I don't even remember. I feel like somebody might have sent this to me, but I think I picked this up and put this chain onto it. I can't remember, to be honest. This is a Shiva lingam stone. I love this. Only thing that I use this for is ancestor work. And again, this is a great way to use a pendulum, is asking questions about healing and blockages and things like that in your ancestor work. You can also do it like over the top of your family tree, like who you're going to work with next. But for asking those sort of figuring out blockages and things like that, pendulums are great for that. And I love this Shiva lingam. Hopefully I'm saying that's the correct what that stone is, but I love this for ancestor work. You could also, obviously even an amethyst, that liminal space can work for Fae energy, past life energy. These things overlap, but for me this is much more generally for strictly ancestor. Maybe a little past life work blends into that, because again those lines cross, but I do love this stone. I love the way that it feels. I love the way that it reads. It's not always a super wide swing, which I don't think is necessary in a pendulum, right? I like it to be decisive so that I can clearly see the movement, but it doesn't have to swing big to be good. But that one is that's amazing in that way. This one is a new one that I picked up at the same crystal shop that I picked this up. Now I need to redo this. And I just pulled it off. So yes, I need to redo this. This is actually too long. Some of these are longer. This one to me is pushing too long. I do prefer more along this length, which is, let's see, the chain itself, that's 5, 6, 7.5. I think I figured around 8 inches is my preference. Like, I like it to be able to drape over my hand and be comfortably in front of the, an inch or two off of the surface. So even maybe a little bit longer, like this could be a little bit longer to be the most comfortable. Like this one is, but I've also used this a lot, so I feel comfortable in hand. Let's see how long this chain is. If I'm doing just the chain itself, 5. Yeah, I mean, this is an 8-inch chain, so I would say 8 to 8.5. That's a nice length of chain. And if it gets beyond that, which this is really close, so I'm not sure why I don't, maybe I just don't like string. Obviously, none of my other ones are string. I just didn't have the chain at the time. So I need to restring this. This is sodalite. Back here. This is a sodalite. It just came obviously with just the binding on it to do it. It's very loud, and what I mean by loud is it swings really decent. It's a longer one, pushing the length. Well, it's 1.5. So when I didn't have this to compare to. It's actually slightly shorter than this one here, maybe similar, just slightly shorter even than that one. So this is actually in the length that I like it. I think I just don't like the thread. I think I just like to have metal there, but it is got a nice swing to it, which is nice. This is sodalite on that one. I believe this is probably also sodalite on here. This is a little amethyst one. I think this one, and this one came together in maybe a little kit. This one I didn't love because it's just kind of like a sparkly, it looks like a fake crystal. I don't know what it's supposed to be. This came with in a separate little set. So these aren't my absolute favorite. Again, these would be nice just to throw in the bag when I didn't want to throw something and I was going to worry about. So I'm not going to get rid of them, but these feel kind of like portable ones that I can throw in a bag and again not have to really worry about them. If I lose them, though, it wouldn't be the end of the world. Whereas if I lost any of these are newer, but if I lost any of these, and even this one already, again, I haven't had this one very long, but I am very attached to this crystal. My dragon side really came out strong with this one, and so if I lost any of these, I would really be upset about that. And this copper, again, any my other copper one, which I have lost. So yeah, let's see, have I finished? I think I finished. So I would say, what can we take away from this? You do not need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You don't need 15 pendulums. You need one, just like we say about decks, right? You only need one. But I do think, again, if you're just doing answers, question and answers, so you're just, let's kind of slide these out of the way. If you are just using like a simple answer, one of my favorite ones to use is this energy state, whether or not things are opened or blocked. If you're just using a pendulum to answer these kind of questions, obviously I'm just going to make this go because I'm not answering a question. So this would be energy is open, this would be energy is closed, and then swirling about would be energy that's in flux or in motion. It can't really, it's not fully open, it's kind of a little bit chaotic, right? So if you're just doing that, or you're just going to do yes and no questions, this is the 3 cauldrons, directions. If you're just kind of using this type of thing and getting answers like divinatory wise, then obviously you just need one that you really like to work with. Now if you're using pendulums for energy work, which is again maybe seeking blockages and things like that, maybe within your body and stuff like that, where you're doing energy work, it does help to have certain crystals that can also aid or amplify whatever that work is that you're doing. And so then I can see having different ones that are kind of specific. And if you have more than one like I do, you will find, I think, that you, just like with a deck, that you tend to go to, if I just want like straight up clarity and honesty and a little bit harder kind of I don't know what my computer's doing, but a little bit just really clear cut. Let's not mess around. I'm definitely pulling the quartz. Again, none of them are going to mess around, but it's just a feeling that you get. Again, this to me is just very much tied to ancestor work. Um, I love obsidian mostly for when I'm feeling scattered. Obsidian is really good for me. It's a very healing crystal. I use it for when I feel like the pieces of myself, the energetics, my energetic self is dissolving or isn't solid. Obsidian really works well for that for me in my healing journey. I have a obsidian sphere, and I have a rose, is it a rose quartz? No, it's a selenite sphere. Those two things have been amazing for healing work, but obsidian is when I am just feeling like I need to be pulled together. So think about that. If you're going to go do a reading for yourself in which you're kind of scattered on it, or maybe a little too emotional about the situation, and you use a crystal that's going to ground you, that's going to really help. So I do love obsidian, like these two, for that type of thing when I really just need to be rooted and grounded. You know, maybe if I shorten this chain too, because this is so big on the end that this chain really needs to be shorter, and it'd be more comfortable. I do love this one, and I have used it. Again, if I really need grounding, this has got a lot of grounding energy there. So I love them all for different reasons, like we do with other things that we have. But my point is you can see where, again, if you're just doing straight divination, you just need a solid one that works for you. If you're starting to get into, if you love crystals already and you know that certain crystals work really well for certain things, then it's adding its vibration into the situation. And so it can be very helpful in that way to add that energy into it on top of the vibrations that you're reading of the situation at hand. So so yeah, I hope that this helps. If nothing else, just you can see out of curiosity, see the crystals that I have or the pendulums that I have and how they might use this one. I'm going to restring and then give, I haven't had a chance to really work with that. I've not worked with sodalite in a pendulum because that's a newer, these are new as well. So I definitely want to work with that one. I definitely am going to be working more with this one. I think for me, this is really web stuff, right? This is really dropping in, and I put a little spiral on here because I could feel that right away, and I had that charm with me. And so I think that this is really going to be sort of going into the cave, maybe with Bear, animal guardian, my animal guardian Bear. This feels like in the caves, in the web, with Bear kind of energy. So I don't know. We're going to see. I'm going to leave this one out. Obviously, the copper one stays out all the time when my house fae haven't stolen. Okay, I found it. I have to give some honey and bread to my house fae because I falsely accused them. Here's my little copper one. It was actually in my small, my traveling altar box that I had put it in, so I had copper with me. And it was, funny enough though, it was with one of my fairy stones. I know some people call them hag stones, in a little bag, but this is a little look. So this is just as small as these and slightly smaller, but the copper obviously gives it heft. It's quite a bit smaller than this one, but I love this little guy. This is definitely my most used. Again, copper, it's very, very, it's got a very strong swing to it. I adore this one. So maybe what I'll do is put this one in there, which also has a really good swing to it. I just like having copper. That was my thinking when I put it in there, now that I remember it. I just like having copper on me. So this gave me a pendulum in my traveling thing, but also gave me copper. So it was kind of a twofer. So We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. It kind of likes being with this, so it may go back in there, and I'll work with this one and then decide which one's going to go in there and which one's not. But there you go. This is a little mighty powerful one. I think I got this at like a little local shop, like a yoga shop, or so. I don't have any crystal shops, but I did find one similar on Amazon, so I'll link these two below. But I do like the heft of this because, again, I do like heft. So as a beginner one, I think I would almost recommend this one just because it's got a heft, it's got a really solid point, and it's just going to be a good one, I think, for starting weight to it. But this is a good one. I just had to put that in there because I was just thinking, I just don't understand where else it could be. And then I thought, you know what? I think that's the only other place that it could be that I didn't look. So I thought I'd pop on and show it to you. There we have it. I hope that this was of interest. And again, I'll put a link to the energy and what I could call vibrational scrying using Pendulum workshop below, if that's something that interests you or just enjoy looking at my collection. So I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.